Hi everyone, welcome back to the second episode of Red Talks About Stuff. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the need to subscribe, or the need to subscribe to a game, like an app, anything like that. And is it really required? Is it really acceptable to have to subscribe to everything? Before we go any further, though, yes, you are seeing another bit of Destiny 2 gameplay, and that sort of ties into the video as well, especially considering Destiny 2 does have a somewhat subscriber feel to it. So I think the first thing to do is to define what it is to subscribe to something. Uh, to subscribe, from my opinion, is something like, in terms of playing games and all that sort of stuff, it's having to pay a monthly fee or having to pay an ongoing fee. So what does that mean? A monthly fee is for games like Final Fantasy 15, 14, World of Warcraft, all that sort of stuff, where you can't play unless you're subscribed. And those sort of games are one aspect. The other one is kind of like your Fortnites, Destiny 2, any game, PUBG, any game that sort of has like a battle pass need to subscribe. Okay, so with that, we'll just go into it a little bit and go from there. First of all, many games nowadays don't require you to subscribe to them. Like most are just, if you have a copy of the game, you can just play it straight away, except for PlayStation and Xbox, which of course require you to have PlayStation Plus or Xbox Live. Now, let's start with that. With Xbox Live and PlayStation Plus, I sort of feel like that's the sort of necessary evil. Not to say that a lot of companies would do this because I think it would hurt their bottom line more, but if you had Xbox and PlayStation saying, no, we are not going to make you pay for a subscription, that's up to the developers, you would find probably a lot of companies turn around and say, yeah, you're going to have to pay a couple of dollars to play our game. Which is, it would just kill the need to play. So with consoles, I feel like it's a necessary evil because it does blanket affect everything where you can just sort of play online. Do I think you should have to pay to play online? No, not really. Like it is a bit crap that is there, but I am glad that it is there for a certain respect because I wouldn't want every company under the sun trying to get a subscription fee out of me to play their games where I sort of feel like they might not be justified. Now, that's the console market, and you do get something back for it, I suppose. Like they do give you free games sort of every month. Whether or not they are good or not is up to the player themselves. I, for one, just yesterday, downloaded Neo for the PlayStation 4 because I was like, oh, I've played a little bit of this before, and I didn't get a chance to finish it, and I don't own it anymore because I traded it in. So for free, yeah, I'll download that. So I got a little, I suppose, value for my money. Um, Xbox Game Pass, I believe, is also can be included as part of the online fee. I'm not really sure. I don't own an Xbox, but that's a great one. Like I feel that's quite good. You're actually getting value for your money. Uh, but yeah, depending on how you look at it, that's here or there. Um, when it comes down to games like Fortnite and the battle passes and all that sort of stuff, I sort of feel like they are a little bit money hungry because like all you're really getting is cosmetics. It speeds up grinds and gives you things in between your like for your season. It gives you little extra incentives and all that sort of stuff, which I understand is quite good. But at the same time too, it's not every month, which can or it's maybe over, let's say, 60 days, for example, so it's like over 2 months, which is not too bad. Uh, it certainly makes things a little bit, I suppose, more appealing, but at the same time too, I personally feel this one's a little bit more cash grabby because you're already paying for cosmetics, especially if you're really invested in the game, which is marketed heavily towards children. Um, it it has a lot of things in it that make you sort of go, oh, I wouldn't mind getting that. Oh, I wouldn't mind getting this. And under the in the right mindset, uh, that obviously can affect people where they spend like far too much money on games or on these transactions that they rack up massive debts and all that sort of stuff. So I feel like a battle pass is kind of a little bit too much. In saying that, this game Destiny has a battle pass like a subscription for like a season pass or something like that, and what that does is it gives you exactly what I've just described. It gives you little incentives every single time you level up in the season. You do get a free version of that. Most of those games offer that free version, but it's like nothing special in comparison to what it would be if you paid, I think, the $10 it is to get the Battle Pass. So that's here or there. I mean, if you're paying only for one, like if I was only paying for Destiny 2's Battle Pass, which I'm not, but if I was, then I could sort of understand and I would sort of sit there and go, yeah, okay, maybe that's not too bad if I'm not paying for another subscription. But I'm a pretty heavily subscribed World of Warcraft player. I'm not the biggest player. I don't play it a lot, but it's a game this year that I've been coming back to quite a bit. So it's probably my most played game this year. So it certainly has my attention enough to warrant me to just want to keep playing for that and paying for that subscription there. So my thought process on thinking about spending money on a battle pass is a lot less than others. So I just can't foresee myself spending that sort of money. When it comes to monthly subscriptions, like, oh, that was a bad jump. When it comes to monthly subscriptions like WoW and Final Fantasy 14, I'm a little bit biased because I've obviously spent money playing Warcraft, but I feel if the content is there, and it's a game that really sustains itself, and it's always sort of running well and smooth and there's no real big issues, then I don't mind paying the fee. I mean, WoW has had the subscription fee since it started, now 15 years ago, and it's never really backed down on that thought process. So this really does come down to, I suppose, personal opinion. The thought of paying for a battle pass for me is pretty low unless I was heavily invested in the game. Have I considered purchasing the battle pass for Destiny 2? Not really. It has crossed my mind, but I've never really sat down and gone, oh yeah, I'll actually pay for this and I'll play it enough to warrant my purchase. This is the thing I find with subscriptions. Like if we go back to the consoles, as I said, if you let developers just go, oh yeah, you can you have to pay a couple of dollars a month to access our game. Can you imagine if games like Battlefield, Call of Duty, Minecraft even had a small subscription fee for a monthly access just to play online? Like, it'd be a nightmare. It would be a nightmare. It would be like a swarm of piranhas, like trying to give everyone to try and play their games. And that's what kills it a lot of the time. Like, PC is probably the worst offender for this, because obviously PC doesn't have a subscription service that is dedicated to only PC. It's a free-for-all market. So you've got like Origin, you've got Uplay, you've also got like Battle.net, there's Steam, there's a lot of, there's Epic Games Store, there's a lot of different people who could potentially say, oh, if you want to play our games online, you're going to have to pay a subscription fee. Now, before I go any further, there is no way that would happen because the PC market is very much tied into the way of, I bought your game and I'm going to play it for free. And that's not a bad thing. That's certainly not a bad thing. Console gamers are now conditioned to have to pay, but like when PS3 transitioned to PS4 and they said they were going to have to pay to play online, like that didn't go down well. Oh, I'm the last Guardian standing. That did not go down well. Like, a lot of people were not happy about that, but it now has become the normal. So, what I'm trying to say is, I feel like subscriptions are very determined upon a personal preference. If you choose to spend money on a game, I hope it's a game that you get a lot of enjoyment out of, because with all the games now trying to get money from you, and I'm not talking about microtransactions because that's a whole different topic, but with all these game companies trying to get like your battle passes out of you, season passes, like season passes now feel like a small subscription fee, because like if you have a game again like Destiny 2, they I believe have an annual pass, which is a season pass that is once a year, and it gives you a whole year's worth of content. And like to me, I sit there and go, I don't play this game enough to warrant wanting the annual pass. If it's something that comes out free next year, this year's annual pass comes out free next year, I'll play it then. That's the way I'm sort of looking at it, because like I don't feel like I want to pay any more for this game than what I already have. Now this is the free copy, but I did pay for it when I was back on Battle.net, so. And I feel like a lot of gamers are the same. It's like, I've just put $60 down, and you want me to subscribe, pay more, go to the next bit, or whatever it may be. So it's a really interesting sort of thing. So do I feel like there's a need to subscribe? No, not at all. For the games that require a subscription fee, like Final Fantasy XIV, World of Warcraft, all that sort of stuff, that comes down to the player themselves. It comes down to the player themselves. If they are happy to spend that money, then that's their choice. But I don't condone it from every sort of game. And I have an example of it that I'm going to speak about in just a moment. But it does come down to player choice. And I know that sounds like the biggest like major corporation statement. Oh, it's player choice, you don't have to spend the money, which it's very true. Like, you don't have to spend the money. The thing that upsets me about it when it comes from a corporation, though, is the fact that if you don't subscribe, your progress in getting through the game is drastically different. Like, the game is night and day different if you are not a subscriber. So, and again, using this for an example, like, using Destiny 2, if I'm not subscribed, every time I level up in the season, I get like not even half the value, not even a tenth of the value that I get if I was a Battle Pass holder. Battle Pass holder will give me like access to better weapons, access to better like customization options with my guns, like getting exotics, which is the game's equivalency of legendaries. Whereas if I'm not a Battle Pass holder, I have to farm those things, I have to collect them. It is a slower trudge through the game. I think the classic example of that, just a very small jump into microtransactions, is Star Wars Battlefront 2, where the whole game was like, if you want to pay for the loot box, then you will get... you progress faster. Of course, this is not a conversation about loot boxes, so we're going to move hastily on. But I feel that's sort of the same. So, the game I really want to talk about in terms of... Oh, I don't know what just killed me then. The game I want to talk about in terms of being a very poor subscription option is actually Fallout 76. And there's a bit of a story for it. This is what sort of sparked this conversation. But I wanted to sort of show you that I'm not against having to pay for certain things. Like, I suppose with PlayStation, I don't mind paying for online play. I won't be renewing my online play because I really don't play PS4 games online. But if that's your method to play games, it's not a bad deal, I suppose. I personally think the Xbox One is better if you're playing multiplats. Because you obviously get the Game Pass and you can stream, providing your internet is of a decent quality. But Fallout 76's idea of a season pass is an absolute joke. It is an absolute joke. And the reason for it, we have to start from the start, really. When the game was first announced, I was not on board. I was not on board. I've never considered playing the game. I have no interest in playing the game. I've seen enough footage to know what the game is about, to know how it runs, and to the way it performs, having played any other Bethesda game of the recent years, including the 4,000 releases of Skyrim. So people saying, oh, you should really play the game first. This is a game where you don't need to sit down and play it to know what it's like. One quick video will easily fix that. But anyway, to the story. So when it first came out, I was not on board at all. I saw it, I looked at it and go, in some cases, they can't even get a single player game to run perfectly. How are they going to make it a multiplayer game? And when they announced that there'd be no NPCs, that made it even worse. I'm like, your whole essence is based around story. If you can't have a game, if you've got a game with no NPCs, no characters to enrich your world, how is that going to work? And when the game launched, it was really evident how flawed some of those games were, or how some of Bethesda's games were, which really didn't help the situation, because here you are, a lot of people going, I can finally play this game with my friends, and it just didn't work. It just did not work. So there was that. The game had multiple fixes, didn't really get far, and people started to drop off real fast. Then, after that, people quickly discovered that there was the issue with the canvas bag that was with the collector's edition. They got a crap nylon bag. People started to arc up about it. And basically, Bethesda's first response was, give them some premium currency. I think it's atoms. Give them 500 atoms, and that will make them happy, which is apparently about the same value as the bag that they promised, which is about $5. The funniest thing about it was the fact that that didn't make people happy, and people started to point out the fact that the 500 atoms that they got was not enough to buy an actual canvas bag inside the game using the premium cash shop. So that made people even more angry. So what did they do? They made a canvas bag which didn't really live up to the expectations that people had. Then after that, there's the whole issue with the rum. It was a Nuka rum that was supposed to be coming out, and people saw it and they were pretty excited because it was in the nice glass bottle, and they were like, I like the shape, and it just looks really appealing to have. It had a nice design, nice finish on it, so people started buying that. Not only was it not very good alcohol, the design was actually plastic, and the actual bottle was nothing more than a clear glass bottle with nothing on it. That's mistake number 2, right? It gets worse because Bethesda also go around banning people for what seem to be pretty stupid reasons. There's a whole list of them. If you want to do a quick YouTube search, you can do that, and it will give you a whole list of them. I actually did one in the last video talking about it. Talking about the guy who got banned for playing 900 hours of Fallout 76, and they banned him because they believed he had too much ammunition. So yeah, it's just ridiculous. The stories are just insane. But after that, it goes quiet. Don't hear much about it for a while. And then Bethesda comes out and says, even though they said otherwise from the start, that they weren't going to put pay-to-win aspects in their premium shop, you start to see little pay-to-win things come in, like repair kits and all that sort of stuff. The ability to have like a stash almost anywhere. So they start adding these little conveniences, which is not what they said that they were going to do. So, which is not good, because now people find another reason to sort of give them some bad press. So that did not go down very well. And unfortunately, that is still happening. And then on top of that, Bethesda announces that they're going to have a subscription fee. You have to pay $100 for a year. Or I think it's like $15-something a month, whatever it may be. Right? So, on top of all this shitstorm that they have created themselves, because let's be honest, only Bethesda made this problem, they now have the gall to add a subscription fee. And this is where I feel a subscription fee is just absolutely absurd. And this is what sparked this conversation. How can you justify, Bethesda, having a subscription fee for a game that is not only utterly broken and, from what I heard, is not much better from launch, but offers basically nothing? Like, you've told us that you are putting in NPCs, and that's supposed to make us want to spend money on it and go, oh yeah, they put NPCs in it now. It kind of feels like Fallout 4, which, from my experience, is not great. Like, I've not finished Fallout 4 because I couldn't sit down and stomach it long enough to make me go, oh yeah, this is fun, this is good. It had a lot of great ideas, but like, for an RPG, it was just, no. They lost it. It's an action game now. But like, you have the audacity to believe that your game is worth subscribing to. You know, now I hope personally it's not a month-to-month subscription like World of Warcraft. I don't actually know, to be honest with you. If it's optional, that you should just kill it before it even has a chance, right? But that's unfortunate of me saying that, because it actually is already out and it doesn't stand a chance, because apparently it doesn't fucking work. Like, the method of which they get more money, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Like, it does not work from a technical aspect. They've had a lot of issues with it. People are saying that it's not working for them. People aren't getting the things that they've been promised. It's an absolute shit show. This is the absolute defining pinnacle of why some people and why we should not subscribe to games. You know, ultimately it's your choice. But I don't think the 900 hours played dude is signing up to it. Not after what happened. Like, I cannot believe that there's people out there there's developers out there who put out non-finished games and then expect you to pay through the nose for it, and then on top of that, have the audacity, as I said before, to put out extra and go, oh yeah, our game's of a high enough standard now, you can just pay for the rest of it. How about you finish the damn game first, Bethesda? Right? And the same thing can be said about games like Anthem as well. That is an absolute crap buffet. Right? And the thing is, as far as I know, Anthem doesn't have a subscription fee, but it's not the point. Like, it's sort of around the idea that it's alright to make these half-baked games and just tack money on them. Like, they're all going to be money makers. And the thing is, too, like, people will go out in droves and spend money on this, and I don't understand why. Like, Fortnite is a good example of it, and when they did Chapter 2, the first thing I said is, geez, I hope that they don't cancel or make all the old costumes null and void, because, like, people will be in riot. Like, it's one thing to have adults be upset, but because Fortnite is played by kids, and parents pay for those cosmetics, parents, more often than not, won't understand, like, what they're paying for their kids. So when little Billy walks through the door and goes, oh, Mum, Dad, my Fortnite skins are gone, like, of course they're going to chase it up. They're going to chase it up, and they're going to sit there when Epic tells them, all your skins are null and void. Like, they're going to turn around and go, well, what did I just spend all this money on? You know, game developers nowadays, everything they promise as a 10-year project or a 5-year project or a live service, you know what that means? Until the next one comes out. Which, if it's anything like your Call of Duties or anything like that, or your FIFAs, like, be prepared in 12 months' time to have it completely gone to fuck. Like, it's just gone. You know, in that respect, I'm glad that some of those games do not have subscription fees. Like, because if they did, my God, could you imagine? Could you imagine? Like, some people will turn around and say that, WoW nowadays having a subscription is bad. And I can agree to some point. Like, I don't really like to have to pay for it every single month. However, there is one thing that you do get with that, despite Battle for Azeroth not being the greatest expansion. you get a certain level of quality. Like, it is a little bit slow to load in, like they need to do something to clean up the servers, which they are looking at doing now. But when you boot the game up and it starts running, like, it doesn't lag. There's very few bugs from my experience. Like, you log in and you can play the game, and you get a lot of content for what you pay for. And to me, that's beneficial. Like, it's the reason why I continually give Blizzard my support. Otherwise, I wouldn't, because I just feel like I wouldn't be getting my money's worth. So, I suppose the long and the short version of this story is, if you choose to give a game your money for, whether it be a online subscription to pay monthly, a battle pass, ultimately it's your choice. But I always exercise on the air of caution, because I just, like, nowadays you just don't know what you're getting with it. I know they're upfront, they're trying to be more upfront with it, like disclose odds of certain things and show what you get for each level in the battle pass. But it's something that I feel like, considering how much you already spend on it, like especially with games like Fortnite and all that sort of stuff, do you really need an extra $10 for just more stuff? You know, because if you, especially with battle passes, if you don't like get to the high levels in the battle pass, you're probably not getting the item that you want. You know, that flagship item, which I know is the incentive to keep playing. But like, with so many games out there nowadays that want you to subscribe, do all this sort of stuff, like, you don't have the time to play them all. You know, even a young kid at school doesn't have a time to play them all, because they're going to be playing with their friends. Like, their friends are like, oh, why don't you have this yet? Why haven't you done this yet? So you're going to be drawn into playing the one game. And in this case, it's Fortnite. Fortnite's the biggest game. So I always say, just err on the side of caution. Don't just buy everything and anything that comes through. Like, you have to be careful how you spend your money and all that sort of stuff. And like, just know that at the blink of an eye, it can all be taken away. It can all disappear. Look at FIFA as an example. That might as well just have a sub fee, rather than all this microtransaction bullshit that just gets erased every year for a reskin. And it's not even a reskin. It's just an update to a roster. It would literally be maybe a couple of gigs of a patch. Oh, and maybe a new hairstyle. Okay, let's give it a couple of gigs of a patch, to be fair. But otherwise, yeah, no, it's just not. So to conclude, I suppose, you can subscribe to stuff if you so choose. That is your choice. But always err on the side of caution. You just don't know what you're getting when you look at this sort of stuff. You don't know how long it's going to be around for. So you just have to be aware that it could all disappear without a trace, and you're left with nothing. Well, with that, I hope you enjoyed this episode. It's a little bit longer than the last one. I wanted to see what your thoughts are about it, and I was pleasantly surprised about how popular the first episode was. So, you know, if you like this episode as well, please subscribe, to the channel. Please give this video a like, share it around with your friends, and please put a comment down discussing it as well. How do you feel about subscribing to games and having to pay a monthly fee, or having to pay for the online service? With that, my name's Red, and I'll see you next time. I'm out.